G'day my fellow media collectors, I'm Troy and today we're looking at Superman 3 is a live action superhero movie that was produced by Dovemead Ltd. The movie was released into theatres on the 17th of June 1983. Both Gene Hackman and Margot publicly criticised the Salkinds for their treatment of Donna, resulting in Hackman refusing to reprise his role of Lex Luthor, and they punished Kidder by reducing her role in the movie to a brief appearance. The film originally had a much darker tone that involved Brainiac as the main villain, but the film shifted to a more comedic approach, largely due to Pryor's casting in the film. This movie has a runtime of 125 minutes. It was released on 4K HD on the 6th of November 2018 and was distributed by Warner Brothers Home Video. This movie follows Superman as he faces a new threat when bumbling computer genius Gus Gorman is manipulated by wealthy businessman Ross Webster into using his hacking skills to seize control of a weather satellite and annihilate Colombia's coffee crop. When Superman manages to thwart the plans, Webster commands Gorman to use his satellite to locate Kryptonite to destroy Superman. But Gus creates a synthetic Kryptonite and it has an unexpected effect, corrupting Superman and turning him into a dark, selfish version of himself. As Superman spirals into chaos, he must battle with his own inner demons in a climactic fight against his true self, which he eventually regains control and confronts Webster's ultimate weapon, a deadly supercomputer capable of destroying him and the world. Now, the script for this movie, it takes a major departure from the tone of its predecessors, and while the first two films did a reasonable good job of balancing epic storytelling with heart and adventure, Superman 3 on the other hand veers away off course, leading really heavy into slapstick comedy and weak plot lines that feel really out of place for this trilogy of superhero movies. This movie suffers from tonal inconsistencies, poor character development, and a lackluster villain, with Ross Webster being nothing more than a weak substitute for Lex Luthor, with no real depth or menace, and his plan to control the world's coffee and oil supplies feels almost small scale compared to the previous threats in the previous movies. And of course, Gus Gorman feels just out of place as well in this Superman movie, with his comedic moments feeling forced and his character's motivations being very unclear as he shifts from being a bumbling hacker to an almost genius programmer, then back to a joke character. The script did have some good ideas, like the evil Superman storyline, but that kind of suffered from some poor execution, as this element could have been really compelling, a real compelling psychological study of Superman's darker side, but instead it just turned into a wasted potential as usual. The script of Superman 3 is a frustrating mess filled with pointless comedy, weak villains, and an even weaker storyline. It completely fails to capture the epic and inspiring spirit of the previous two Superman movies, turning what should have been an action-packed adventure into this real disjointed comedic misfire. And look, with all that wasted potential, God, the best I can do for this is probably maybe an 8 out of 30. Now, as before in my last couple of reviews of these movies, This version of the character in this film is based off Superman's golden and silver age of comic books from DC Comics, of course. And the film closely follows most of the elements and mythology that makes up this character. But as we have mentioned before as well, the movie makers love to have a little bit of take of their liberties, shall we say, with the character and his powers. So for instance, this film's subplot of Superman turning evil due to synthetic kryptonite actually loosely is drawn from the comic book stories, where Superman is corrupted or split into multiple personalities in the comics. But kryptonite does come in many forms, and each form affects Superman differently, whereas in this movie they invent a synthetic kryptonite mixed with an unknown tar component, and it corrupts Superman rather than weakening him like normal kryptonite would. And another is the movie's final battle against the supercomputer, which is actually loosely inspired by Superman's past encounters with advanced AI, such as, yes, Brainiac, like I said before. This was supposed to be a Brainiac movie, which also inspired Vera Webster's cyborg transformation scene, which is very reminiscent of some elements seen in the Superman comics, particularly when he is up against Brainiac, where he turns into a cyborg robot.
Don't compare us!
Now for the cast. I'll bring it up here. And as you can see, we have, for the early 80s, it is a pretty good cast, but sad to say, not everyone was firing on all cylinders, shall we say. Now, as usual, we will just look at our main characters for this. And of course, first up is, yeah, of course, Mr. Christopher Reeve as Superman, aka Clark Kent. And once again, Reeve is the heart of this film, delivering a fantastic triple performance this time around as both Clark Kent, Superman, and the evil Superman, which is one of the most memorable aspects of this film, actually, showing his range beyond his noble hero persona. Despite what he was really given to work with in this film, Reeves manages to just be the perfect Superman, effortlessly balancing strength, charisma, and vulnerability yet again. Okay, so Richard Pryor as Gus Gorman. Now, Pryor did an okay job as his character, but his character feels like it belongs in a completely different movie. At the time, Pryor was a huge comedic star in the 80s, but this script forces him into slapstick situations that often fall flat and really undermine any seriousness of the story. Pryor himself actually later admitted that he only took the role mostly for the paycheck, and that his character wasn't really a great fit for the Superman universe. No shit.
Oh, he's the Captain Obvious guy.
Now, Robert Vaughn as Ross Webster is nothing more than a generic evil businessman rather than a truly menacing villain. And while Vaughn delivers his line with confidence and charm, his character really just lacks any depth, motivation, and any sort of real strong on-screen presence, as his character is pretty well much just a very, I'm going to say very weak substitute for Lex Luthor that never feels like a real threat to Superman, if you know what I mean, making the film's conflict really less compelling and his role in the movie just downright disappointing. Last but not least, we have to mention Annette O'Toole as Lana Lang, who was written in to be Superman's new love interest while Lois was off on holiday, shall we say. Now, O'Toole's Lang is a warm, likeable, and actually refreshing contrast to Lois Lane. And unlike Lois, Lana is genuinely interested in Clark, which is a change, not just Superman, which adds emotional depth to her character. O'Toole and Reeve, they actually have some really good chemistry on screen, making their Smallville scenes seem some of the film's sort of most heartfelt moments, if you know what I mean. For me, this film, honestly, it gets a bit 50-50 here, with some things actually standing out and some things not really working real well, especially when you got some actors just showing up for a paycheck as well. That doesn't help. So, because it's a bit 50-50, I'm going to shoot this straight down the middle and give it a 10 out of 20. Okay, as we look at the disc and case, there we have it there. They go with a very similar theme across them all, as you've probably seen, is Superman flying towards the thing, but they all look pretty good, and I love the Superman logos they've done. They look good. I have to admit, we've got one more to go, but yeah, they all look really impressive. So there's the side, and there's the back. Same again, they usually just go for the one photo on the back from what I can see, and all the details and stuff, but it still looks great. And I have to admit, I really like them in the black covers for the 4Ks. They look really good. Now if we look at the disc, yeah, it's pretty straightforward again. It seems to be the theme is red for the 4K and blue for the Blu-ray, but you know, no pictures or anything, which is kind of that I do get a little disappointed with that. But anyway, overall, they look good. They look good on your shelf, and overall, I have to admit, I'm still very impressed with all of them. So with that, yeah, I'm definitely going to go with an 8 out of 10. So, unlike the previous versions, we don't actually have too many special features on this one. They just keep getting less and less as we go through. But we do have some, and they start with the audio commentary by Iliad Salkin and Perry Spengler of the making of Superman 3, a 1983 TV special, deleted scenes, and the theatrical trailer for the movie. So, whew, not much on there, but at least there is something, which is always good. Now, the main thing, the making of Superman 3, this TV special, is your run-of-the-mill TV spot that they used to do as promotional content for these movies releases back in the day, back in the 80s. And look, it is boring as hell and tedious to watch. Nothing too special in there or exciting to watch at all. They didn't really know how to do their behind the scenes yet, but yeah. Oof, I definitely won't be watching that one. Yeah. Anyway, look, it does have some, so I'm definitely going to give a score to reflect that. Not that they're great, but anyway. For that, I think I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10. Now, as I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critic score came in at 29%. Jeez. While the audience score came in at, got even worse, 23%. Well, look, honestly, there's no surprise here whatsoever. And if you look at the comments from the critics and reviewers, they say everything you can imagine and more. And let's just say they're not glowing. They're just brutally honest about the fact that this was, there's a common theme where it's very much about how much slapstick comedy there is there, and not epic superhero story like people wanted, which is the common critique across the board when you look at those comments. And look, I'm not surprised, because I feel the same way. It is just, it's very much that. So yeah, I'm not surprised, shall we say. I'm glad I'm all out of words. But yeah, it's a terrible score. So for that, if we round it out, we're going to get a score of 3 out of 10. Now, look, I don't think I ever saw this on TV, but I do think my parents rented it out for me on VHS when it came back out in the day. And I watched it once, but don't quote me on that. I may have got that wrong.
Because he's old. He's very, very old.
And look, the things that I think stuck with me from watching this as a kid was Richard Pryor being in the movie, because I used to love a lot of those comedies back in the day. So that stuck with me. And also cyborg transformation at the end. Now, as a kid, that scene stuck with me, and not in a good way, if you know what I mean. It was a bit full on for a young kid of like 8 or 9 years old, I think I was at the time. But if you ask me what happened in the story, I couldn't really tell you. So I was never like, I never really looked to watch it again. So I was interested to see if this was what I remembered and whether it was good or bad. So look, from the start of the movie, where you get your Charlie Chaplin-esque slapstick montage for almost the first 7 to 8 minutes of the film, I knew we were in trouble straight away, and it didn't get better from there. Look, I'm not against comedy in superhero films. I think you need that in a superhero film. But the whole tone of this movie was just literally hijacked to fit Pryor and his comedic bits, which actually, for this movie, were not funny at all. It only made the film feel like it was like a drag to watch than an actual delight to watch. And let's not forget the whole supercomputer angle, which was in those early 80s movies. It was a very popular story to tell, as not everyone knew about computers. These new computers, what do they do and what they're like? And it could really, they really loved, getting into those sort of type of movies at that time. And they made for some great stories out there, like I think it was War Games and Tron, but this is not one of those movies that you'll remember for that. And I suppose this was about as close as we were going to get to actually a Brainiac story when you think about it. But fingers crossed, with the new James Gunn's movies, I'm hoping that he's going to do Brainiac, because let's face it, he's been one of Superman's main villains that we've all wanted to see on the big screen, but we just never had the chance to yet. Anyway, this is by far one of the most forgettable movies in the franchise, and I don't think, to be honest, I don't think I'll ever watch it again, or at least for a long, long time to come. That's for sure. Anyway, with how dismal this was, and it didn't live up to any expectations, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 20. Now, as far as availability goes, this is definitely a 1 out of 5, as this is super common to find everywhere, anywhere, everywhere. Shops, eBay, online, you name it, you can get almost any copy anywhere at any time. Super available. So as far as collectability goes, I'm definitely going to put this at a 4. Now, I'm only putting it as 4 as, look, let's face it, you want to get all 4 movies together as a set. So if you definitely got to get the other 2, well, you got to get this one and the 4th one. But if you're not that picky, well, then I wouldn't bother. The average price, you are looking at somewhere between $17 to $56 for the 4K HD. So as I always say, it does pay to shop around. Let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Okay, now for the final score. We get a grand total of 39 out of 100. That's a weak score for a pretty weak movie. Definitely goes down as a blemish on the Superman legacy, that is for sure.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Hey, so if you like this video, and you want to see some more of my reviews, why don't you click that one there? Maybe you want to see some of my collection updates. I've got you covered too. Click that one there. And of course, don't forget to do the most important thing. Throw me a like, and don't forget to hit that subscription button on the way out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.